Hello and welcome. How do you do? The purpose of this video is to demonstrate really true sustainability. The heirloom quality of furniture that can exist and the true meaning of a piece having character and history. The set that you'll see is now in the 60-year-old range and it could tell stories. It's now in its third generation of family use. This also illustrates the process involved in refinishing or refurbishing a tired old piece by an amateur, me. Hopefully you will determine whether you should attempt this or leave it to the professionals. This is not meant as a complete step-by-step how-to tutorial. I leave that to the professional woodworkers on YouTube. But hopefully this gives you a CliffsNote version of what to research and why you may want to dampen your expectations of perfection. I hope you enjoy this presentation.
This is a mid-century, I think we'd call it, dining room table in what we'd say rough shape. It has got a lot of rings on it from people not taking care of it, not protecting it properly. We have some white kind of stain. I don't know what that is. Some type of water stain and an overall mess. So let's see what we can accomplish. The neatest thing about this table is its ability to drop down to a small size, which would be 27 inches by 42 roughly, with these big drop leaves. It also has 3 boards that you can put in it to pull it apart and make it super huge then with the leaves. And we can demonstrate that later, but these leaves will need to be redone as well, or inserts, I guess leaves inserts. And here's the bottom side of the table. It's a nice quality table. I think that's why this is an interesting video to do, in order to say, hey, you know what? I'm not afraid to work on a more expensive piece. Only because I'm not going to get rid of it, but I'm not going to pay to have it done because it's just would be too prohibitively expensive and not worth it. I just want to make it look decent. So we're going to have to take these leaves off in order to strip it down. Here's an example of a couple matching tables. This was part of that set. Now, years and years ago, and I'm not sure how long, but probably 10 or so, I refinished these. Now, they had a painted top, but the paint was all chipped and in terrible condition. So you can see, I stripped it down and they don't look great. I mean, it's not a very good job. You can almost see brush marks and uneven gloss maybe, or I guess orange peel as they call it. But you know what? They're used on almost a daily basis as a TV table, and they're very durable. And from a distance, they're not horrible. So the point is, sometimes things don't have to be done perfectly, but just good enough. And that's kind of the case in point with these. And you can see how that same, I believe, walnut that matches the dining table should come out very nicely. Now, I think I used water base on these and they've held up extremely well, having wet glasses and plates and everything set on them all the time. So it's just an example of, okay, if you do it yourself, you're not going to get fantastic results, but maybe the results will be good enough. I hate using chemicals, but in some instances there's just not a great choice. So I'll use the kind of a combination of the thicker one, I guess what they call it, a paste, semi-paste, and the thinner one, liquid. And then the afterwash I find works pretty good for getting the residue off and even some remaining varnish. I even get the air circulating and use heavy gloves. I don't like to breathe this junk. So after the stripping, after you've got all cleaned up from the stripping and dried, then it's the process of sanding. And you want to work your way down the grits from somewhat coarse. I think you have to play it by ear a little bit and figure out, you know, how much. Maybe start with a medium grip. I think I started with medium, maybe 100. And you use a DA sander's the best. You have to have a DA sander, I feel now. I didn't want to do an endless video of sanding. It's just basically straightforward. So this is just an example of using the DA sander back and forth, different directions, and you of course really want it hooked up to your shop vac because it creates a lot of dust. You can't quite see it in this picture, but I do have this hooked up to my shop vac. And also to reiterate, you know, this is a thin veneer on most things, so you don't want to get too aggressive and sand through the veneer, so you have to be pretty cautious and careful. Now after the paint remover and sanding, use the DA sander and then a little bit of hand sanding. This looks pretty good to my untrained eye. I mean, we have a little bit of lighter coloration there, but now this is where we're into not knowing, right? Expertise. Is this just the wood? Is there still a lot of stain in there? So they claim that by wiping it with some mineral spirits, it'll tell you what the finish will look like. So let's do that and see what it looks like. I use some oxalic acid to try and get this ring out, but you can still see a ring here. And then you kind of wonder, what was it from, huh? Somebody at a party left a glass overnight, and was somebody mad in the morning because they left a ring on the table? Okay, so let's take a look here with the mineral spirits and see if anything pops out. I mean, it's really it's a beautiful wood, and it's interesting just how thick they were with stains and fillers. I really love the beauty of this wood. And I mean, I don't see anything that's a big standout in this section. I mean, if that's the way it looks when it's varnished, to me that looks awfully good, or has the potential to look awfully good. Let's just try and move over here. And that would look great, I think. Now even these kind of lighter spots, I think will look fine. And that should look really nice. But we'll see. And this is the general finishes. I don't recall that I've ever used this before. So a lot more expensive than, I think I usually use Diamond Gloss or the Minwax product. And there's probably not a lot of difference, but this is what they had at the hardware store I was at. And I decided, well, I'd give this a shot. And it does get, I think, pretty good reviews from woodworkers for this product. Let's see what the performance of this product is. Progressing in our table project, we've got about probably 4 to 5 coats of the water base. The water base General Finishes high or gloss product. Now, it looks good, but it doesn't look, let's see if we can get a little bit of a shine here. It doesn't look completely uniform and nice. So what I'm doing is I'm taking this 2000 grit DA, going over it very lightly once, then polishing it. And it gives it a much more uniform finish. So a light sand with this, then I'm polishing it using the, in this case I'm using the Ultra Cut compound. With boy, that polishes up just beautifully, much more uniform finish.
Do tell.
Tell me about this table.
What about it? Got it in North Carolina.
What year?
What year? Oh. Somewhere around the 60s, plus or minus 5 years.
Do you remember anything about it?
Well, yeah, it was part of a series of furniture that was really quite nice and fairly expensive.
Do you remember how much?
Oh, I don't know, but it was enough.
So you
It's
don't.
part of the thing that goes with the chairs.
Yeah, well, in the right behind you, the buffet.
Yeah. And
Right there, that
Right.
buffet goes with it.
and the end tables.
Do you know what brand it was?
What brand? Well,
Yeah.
doesn't it say in it?
Well, I just wondered if you remembered.
No, I don't remember.
Okay.
I almost, it's right at the edge, but I don't
So you think you
know.
bought around 1960 maybe, or was that earlier than that? That would have been earlier
Not
than
much
that.
earlier, I don't think.
And you bought it from the furniture manufacturer out there? What did you always like it, or were you
Yeah.
happy with it?
Yeah, I was very impressed with it. Always.
Always?
Yes.
All over the years?
Yes. All over those 50, 60 years.
56, yeah. It's truly a quality piece that's lasted through the years, through the
Yes.
generations.
Yes. I like the table, the leaves. Then it had a couple more.
Yeah, it's infinitely configurable. You can make it down to 2 people like this, or
Yeah.
about
a lot.
12 around
Yeah,
it, I think, if you put all the
3
leaves
around
up.
it, right.
You can get
That
super.
is correct, sir.
Yes, it's very flexible.
Yes.
Back, refinished it. Doesn't it look a lot better?
Yeah.
It's nice.
I think so. It was a little different. It was more dull.
Yes, you're right. You're
Yes.
right, it was. Yeah.
Which was good. I liked that.
Yeah, it's fine. Either way.
Yeah.
It was a little thicker varnish. This kind of pulls the
Oh.
wood grain out a little more, I think. Years ahead, though, I would think it'll last for the millennium, huh?
Yeah.
That video may have been a little longer than I had hoped for, but hopefully it helps you in your furniture choices, both regarding purchase and refinish. Primary determinant is your expectations. You can, just throw some varnish or some paint on a piece and with minimal sanding, and maybe that's all you want and you're good with it. But if you're a perfectionist like me and you have to keep taking it to that next level, that means a lot more work and time. So decide what level work in the end you will be happy with. You will observe that an important part of the finishing process is polishing. And this is something that I didn't understand or didn't really embrace until more recently. Now, I used auto polish on this project. However, it's not suitable for all projects. Some projects it will get, depending on the grain of wood you use, it can kind of get ingrained in the wood and create problems. So with all these things, you need to test and determine. There are pumices you can use, different polishes that you can try. So it's not an end-all be-all solution, and it probably varies from finish to finish that you use. So be cautious of that. So there are kind of two themes of this video. The theme is that should you attempt to refinish a project yourself, but there's also a theme of sustainability, of history, of longevity, of a certain amount of nostalgia, and whether those things mean anything to you. Does it mean something that you put your sweat equity into it and refinish that piece, right? I think one of the biggest limiting factors on whether you're going to undertake this yourself is the space that you require to do it. A table is a pretty big space. It'll take up a space of your garage, and doesn't get done overnight. There's drying time involved. There's time for stripping it down. There's time for sanding. There's between coat sanding. There's drying it before you polish it if you're going to go that far. So space is one big consideration. The next is, do you want to expose yourself to these toxic environments? It's very dusty when you're sanding. You'll be using some amount of chemicals. If you're using strippers and you're using varnishes, they're somewhat toxic, and some people just don't want to deal with that. I think what you understand by watching this is the time that it takes is why you pay somebody good money to do it, and maybe it helps appreciate why you're paying them so much to refinish that beautiful piece for you. And then there are some tools you're going to need. You really need a DA sander, in my opinion. It's kind of a necessary tool that you have to get that good finish. You're going to need some brushes and paint and miscellaneous smaller things. I mean, a DA sander isn't that crazy. You need a shop vac. So these are the caveats, the things to keep in mind, right? The things to wonder, do you want to do this yourself? Is it worth doing yourself? For me, I love the concept of having this piece that now I put my sweat equity into. It's now become more sentimental and part of the history, and along with the water stain that's probably still on there from somebody leaving a glass overnight, right? There's my blood in that table now. Just kind of fun.
Thanks, and please like and subscribe.